All right, let's talk about the gunfight at the OK Corral. You know the story, right? You've seen the movies, you know the names. Wyatt Earp, Doc Holliday, the whole crew. But here's the thing you need to know right up front. Almost everything you think you know about that famous gunfight is a lie. I want you to picture this. It's October 26th, 1881. It's a cold, windy afternoon in Tombstone, Arizona, just a little after 3 o'clock. And in the time it takes to count to 30, the single most famous gunfight in American history is completely over. Just 30 seconds. In that half a minute, something like 30 shots rip through the air. The space is so tight, and the black powder smoke gets so thick, you literally can't see a person standing 10 feet in front of you. It's just deafening chaos and the smell of sulfur. And when that smoke finally starts to drift away, you see what it all cost. Lying in the dirt of this narrow lot are 3 men, either dead or dying. 3 other men are wounded. You know, this wasn't some kind of clean, heroic showdown. It was messy, it was ugly, and it was unbelievably bloody. So that brings us to the big question, right? What really went down in those 30 seconds? Was this a righteous act of law and order, like the legends say? Or was it something way darker? A personal fight that just spiraled out of control and ended in murder? To figure that out, you have to understand this gunfight didn't just happen out of the blue. No, it was the explosive climax of a feud that had been boiling over for months between 2 rival groups, 2 tribes, really, fighting for the soul of Tombstone itself. On one side, you've got what we'll call the town faction. That's the Earps and their buddies. Think of them as the new establishment. They're business owners, they're Northern Republicans, and they're trying to tame this wild boomtown. And on the other side, the cowboy faction. These are rural ranchers, a lot of them ex-Confederates, who feel like this new, civilized world is squeezing them out. So let's break down the lineup. For the town faction, you've got Virgil Earp, the official city marshal. Then there's his brother, Wyatt, who's got big ambitions and really wants that sheriff's job. And of course, their ace in the hole, Doc Holliday, a dentist with a killer temper and an unshakable loyalty to Wyatt. On the cowboy side, there's Ike Clanton, a cattle rustler who talks a big game, his much younger brother Billy, and the McGlory brothers, who were the more level-headed businessmen of the group. And all of this is going down in Tombstone, a city basically running on pure adrenaline and silver. I mean, can you imagine? In the middle of the desert, you've got an opera house and restaurants flying in fresh oysters, but you've also got 110 saloons and a huge red light district. It's a place of insane wealth and really, really deep grudges. It was basically the Civil War all over again, just fought with 6-shooters instead of cannons. And here's the law that lit the fuse. Ordinance number 9. The city council made it illegal to carry guns in town. Now, to a guy like Virgil Earp, this is a tool to keep the peace. But to the cowboys, it's a slap in the face. It's a direct challenge to who they are. And this little ordinance is what gave the Earps the legal cover to finally confront them. Okay, so the gunfight didn't just materialize out of nowhere. It was the direct result of a string of bad decisions that all started the night before with a drunk guy making threats in a saloon. Let's walk through that final fateful 24-hour countdown. So check out how fast this escalates. It all starts with Ike Clanton, drunk off his feet, yelling all over town that he's going to kill the Earps. The next day, the payback begins. First, Virgil pistol whips Ike. He literally beats him with the barrel of his gun, and then arrests him. A little later, Wyatt does the exact same thing to Tom McGlory. Now, these weren't just arrests. This was public shaming. And in the Old West, with its strict code of honor, a debt like that had to be paid in blood. As the cowboys gather in a lot, armed and absolutely furious, Sheriff Johnny Behan, who, by the way, was a political rival of the Earps, goes over to calm them down. He walks back to the Earps and tells them one single catastrophic thing: I have disarmed them. It was a complete lie, and because of that lie, the Earps start walking down that street thinking they're about to make a simple arrest, not walk into a gunfight. And so they walk, 4 men in long coats, shoulder to shoulder, marching down Fremont Street. Virgil, Wyatt, Morgan, and Doc Holliday. They look like Grim Reapers. They're not just going to enforce an ordinance, they're going to make a statement. They cut into this narrow lot, and suddenly the 2 groups are standing barely 6 to 10 feet apart. It's incredibly close. There's absolutely nowhere to run. Virgil yells out the official command: "Throw up your hands, I have come to disarm you." And in that instant, everything just freezes. So who shot first? Honestly, We will never, ever know for sure. The Earps always swore the cowboys were reaching for their pistols. Ike Clanton swore they were trying to surrender and were just gunned down in cold blood. The real truth was probably lost in the panic, the shouting, and the click-clack of hammers being cocked. What happened next was just a hurricane of lead. Wyatt's first shot rips into Frank McGlory's stomach. Morgan hits Billy Clanton, who is only 19 years old. Doc Holliday lets loose with a shotgun and blasts Tom McGlory. The Cowboys fire back, hitting Virgil in the leg and Morgan through the shoulders. It was a vicious, point-blank firefight. And what about Ike Clanton? You know, the guy whose big mouth started this whole mess? He panics, screams that he's unarmed, and actually lunges at Wyatt. Wyatt just shoves him off and yells that famous line at him. Ike doesn't need to hear it twice. He bolts, leaving his own teenage brother to bleed out in the street. Now, you'd think that would be the end of the story, right? 30 seconds of violence, and it's over. But you'd be wrong. In a lot of ways, those 30 seconds weren't the end. They were just the beginning of the real war. Ike Clanton immediately presses murder charges, and the trial that follows is a national sensation. But after a month of testimony, the judge, Wells Spicer, clears the Earps and Holliday. He rules that while they might not have handled it perfectly, they were fully justified in committing these homicides in self-defense. Well, the Cowboys didn't really care what the judge had to say. They decided to get their own justice. 2 months after the fight, they ambush Virgil in the dark, hitting him with a shotgun blast that cripples his arm for life. Then, a few months later, they shoot Morgan Earp in the back through a saloon window, killing him while he's playing pool. And for Wyatt, that was it. The line had been crossed. Wyatt Earp just snaps. He throws his badge away, forms his own posse, and goes on a bloody, lawless manhunt across Arizona, tracking down and killing the men he blamed for what happened to his brothers. And here's the ultimate irony. The man who came to Tombstone to uphold the law became a fugitive from it, wanted for murder. So when you boil it all down, why did this really happen? It was a perfect storm. First, it was about control, a war for the political and economic future of Tombstone. Second, it was about humiliation, a deeply personal feud where men felt their honor was at stake. And finally, it was a catastrophic failure of leadership. One lie, told by a sheriff, turned what could have been a tense arrest into an absolute massacre. You know, the legend of the O.K Corral gives us these clean heroes and clear villains, but the truth is a messy, tragic, and deeply human story. It's about flawed men, political hatred, and the deadly power of wounded pride. And it kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many conflicts in our own lives, in our own world, are just one big misunderstanding and one moment of pride away from becoming their own O.K Corral.
And so, another chapter closes. For more journeys into history's forgotten files, please like and subscribe. Your next story awaits.